Hello, my friends, and I hope you're having a fantastic day. So we're going to talk about not owning your games again because it's a topic that really irritates me. And I like to see other developers push back against it. So as you know, or as you may not know, who knows? Because honestly, I didn't realize another Prince of Persia came out. But apparently, Prince of Persia, The Lost Throne came out, was a hit critically. We all know what that means. But didn't sell very well. And honestly, I'm not surprised. But what I want to talk about mostly is the Larian director of publishing, Michael Douse, who came out with a few comments in regards to the whole situation. Now, the article goes into talking about how the game itself was a good game. It was a slow burn, but it got good. Over here on Metacritic, you can see it has an 86 aggregate score, which is based on the 84 critic reviews, and an 8.5 after 982 user ratings, which is pretty good, realistically. Scores don't look like anything special. A lot of 8 and 9s. A lot of mentions of Metroidvania. So now I will say it has an 8.5 user score on PlayStation 5 and an 8.6 on the Nintendo Switch. PC, it has an 8.6. PlayStation 4, interestingly, it has a 7.9, and on the Xbox, it has a 7.8. So it's really interesting to see how those scores vary according to platform. Not that that probably means anything. I just find it interesting. So while people seem to have enjoyed the game, it didn't sell. It didn't sell to the point that Ubisoft actually took the team apart and put them, basically just spread them around the company to put them on other projects, because they felt that they would be more support there as opposed to working on any more Prince of Persia. And instead of reading through the article and how they, pieced them out, I just want to go directly to his comments. Because, I prefer to get the information directly from the source when I can. Responding to the PC Gamer article, Ubisoft made a good Prince of Persia game, so of course it's disbanded the team shortly after release. Well, now, first off, it's Ubisoft, so God only knows what they do. They don't understand how to make a really good game anymore, except for this game, in which case they didn't seem to understand how to market it. But Douse goes to say, the last notable game on their platform was arguably Far Cry 6 in 2021. The Crew, Mirage, and Avatar came in 2023 and didn't perform. So you can assume subscriptions were at a lull when Prince of Persia released by 2024, which means people wouldn't be launching their store all too much. If it had released on Steam, not only would it have been a market success, but there would likely be a sequel because the team is so strong. It's such a broken strategy. The hardest thing is to make an 85+ game. It's much, much easier to release one. It shouldn't be done as it was. Continues to stay. If the statement, gamers should get used to not owning their games, is true because of a specific release strategy, subs above sales, then the statement, developers must get used to not having jobs if they make a critically acclaimed game, platform strategy above title sales, is also true. And that just isn't sensible, even from a business perspective. And what he's talking about here, for the most part, is the fact that in Ubisoft's own system, they want people to buy the subscriptions to their service. They don't want people to buy the game. They want people to pay the $17.99 a month or whatever in the world it is to have access to the games. They don't want you to buy the game. They want you to pay them for access to the games. Now, most PC players don't really want to do that. A lot of people on Xbox and on PlayStation are okay with that for the game passes and all the extra games, but most of them will still go out of their way and buy games outside of that release. Most people still want to actually own their games. We don't want to pay to access the games. We want to own the games. Now, a law passed not too long ago in California that is forcing platforms like Steam to clarify that you are not paying for the game, that you do not actually own the game, but you are in fact purchasing a license to be able to use the game. And at that point, at any point, your access to the game can be revoked after initial purchase. Now, I've had a lot of things to say about that, basically because I think it's bullshit. If I had, I don't know, I'd probably need $1 million at least. I would set up a physical release for independent games so that they could actually sell a physical release of their games for PC. But until that day where I'm rich enough to do such a thing, I will just continue to throw it out there and hope somebody else with more money than me picks up the ball and runs with it. Because I wouldn't be heartbroken. I would be one of your first customers. I have no problems with collecting a bunch of little thumb drives or something with all my games on them, if that means I actually own the game. If that means that the game can't be taken from me, I'm thrilled. When you look at this kind of structure where you're buying a license to the game, in a case like Concord, for example, they could take the game and not give your money back. Especially when you are acknowledging from the beginning that what you are purchasing is a license and not the game. Now, in Concord's case, most people were still in the mindset of I am buying the game, thus they have to give me my money back when I don't get to keep the game. But with the clarification in the law, you can probably anticipate there being times where they just totally remove the game from you, even shortly after release. If you buy on a platform like GOG, their big selling point is supposedly that you download the game and there is an offline installer, so you still have access to your game, even if you are offline. It gets rid of the DRM and everything that basically forces you to be online to be able to play your game, which is nice, but still not secure enough in my opinion, because there's still too much iffiness. I would just honestly prefer to buy a thumb drive or something that I could plug into my computer and just, own the game. But that's me. I know there's a lot of people out there who don't want to have a physical copy around because it makes everything too cluttered for them and so on and so forth. But this is getting way far off in the weeds. I apologize for that little physical media preservation rant, because oh my god, there's so much good stuff that's going to be gone. It's just going to be lost to the ether because we have no real way to store it. But like I was saying, back to Douse's response here. Now you have this person who responds to Douse saying that the Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, released on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, Nintendo Switch, and Epic Game Store. It only sold 300,000 in its launch month. To suggest a simultaneous Steam release would have somehow saved the game is unrealistic. Which, I mean, Douse just responds with, no, it isn't. And then this fellow goes on to, we literally know how the last Steam exclusive Prince of Persia Jump and Run was received. And let's face it, nobody wanted this game anyway, so I don't know if that's necessarily a really great comparison. This person says this is not really the kind of game being successful on Steam, which is really a silly response or a silly conversation to be had. There are plenty of Metroidvania style games on Steam that are popular. Hollow Knight, Ori. That's where I played Ori in the Blind Forest, and Ori and the Will of the Wisp was on PC, and it was fantastic fun. That's where I've played Hollow Knight. So many of these Metroidvania type games are on PC, and there are plenty of people who will play them. Dandara. Oh my god, I hated that game. Douse goes on to say it's exactly the audience. Older IP skews older, which the Steam platform does. Benefits from democratic positioning plus a likely headline banner. Steam Deck compatibility, so extra visibility for free. Same as any other quality platformer. The other person responds, sure, when looking at the top games played other than early access, free-to-play or multi, it would not have been a lot more than actual sales when available. Douse goes on to say, for premium games, Steam on PC is about 90% plus of your total sales on that platform, probably slightly lower if you own your own platform. If you remove the Steam platform at peak of relevance, you're removing 90% of your average potential audience, quite substantial. And he's right. You can't really delay the release of these games on PC like this. If you want the attention they're getting to drive the PC players, which there are a lot of PC players, then you need to do it at the same time or shortly after. You can't wait years and months. I mean, if it's a good enough game, you might be able to get away with it, or you might be able to release it later after you realize, hey, people really like this game. But not on something like this. And you can see that Ubisoft is really starting to realize that they are making a mistake by not putting these things on Steam right away. You can see that with the fact that they have, after they pushed back the release of Assassin's Creed Shadows, they've also announced that it'll be available day one on Steam so that people can get it right away. Not that I think anybody's really going to want it. But hey, you know, weirder things have happened. But this seems to be a general thought process in Larian, which I think is great. Sven Vinnick said that it's going to be a lot harder to get good content if subscription becomes the dominant model, because that will leave subscription service owners as the final arbiter of which games do and don't get made. This may be a debatable point, but the bottom line, Vinnick said, is this: you won't find our games on a subscription service, which I think is great. I very much like the fact that they don't want to be putting their games on a subscription service, because that means they don't want to make games for the subscription service. They want to make games for gamers. And that seems to be what AA and independent studios right now are doing, is they're making games for gamers. Meanwhile, AAA studios are just making them for investors and consultant firms instead of the gamers. Games as a service is an absolute disservice to the gaming community and the gaming market. In the end, what we need is people who are doing more creative things that market to gamers, not $17.99 subscription services, and then they decide what they want to give us. When they've established what feels to them like a guaranteed income, then they don't have to care what gamers think anymore. And it makes it a lot easier for them to make games that nobody cares about. That's part of what they're trying to get to. They're trying to get to the promised land of being able to develop anything and make money off of it, as opposed to having to put in the work to create something of substance and then people buying it because they recognize that it is great. There are still game studios out there willing to do that. There are independents out there willing to do that. Finding them is harder than ever. And that is why every Sunday night I'll be live streaming for my members my playthrough of a demo for an indie game, and then releasing the highlights of that stream on Monday morning. So keep an eye out for that, because one of the ways we are going to help improve the gaming market is to first stop buying games we don't want, but to actually also start buying games we do. While it's great to stop spending money and not buy anything at all, there's no reason why we have to completely starve ourselves when there are plenty of really good independent and AA developers out there working hard for our money and attention that the AAA studios don't care about anymore. So I'm going to try to help on that end of the equation. All that said, what do you think? Are you one of those who are just fine with not having a physical object in terms of ownership? Do you prefer having the services as opposed to buying games? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the notifications. If you really liked it, you can feel free to share it around, and I will catch you later.